lot of big assignments and stuff?
Kind of, but I just like, because I have a cold. And I was like, no medicine works. And so like, Wednesday I had to test medicine, and it didn't do good this spot. Because like yesterday I took some in the morning, it didn't help. So I just didn't take it because I was out anyway.
Yeah.
And so I've just been using it for the last 3 days. Like, I just stay home and sleep. Like, seriously, I don't have to come home. And I have to work because my mom's been out of town. And so like I was in charge and I just like, yeah, I'm not going to work.
Okay, let's see.
So I've just been this way. So I brought self-care tissue with you today. Because that stuff makes my nose up.
That's Cheyenne. Somebody's late coming evaluation. April.
Where has everybody?
Yeah.
You look so adorable.
I don't look back at you.
You do. I love that.
No. Thanks.
I love it. Is it new?
Yeah, I actually got it at the that little Gap outlet thing.
So when they are right.
By
When they're really right.
like really right. That's when you want to think about it. No. They have everything in my like an additional 40 off.
Really?
So this was only like $5.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they usually go in there. They have these cute cardigans in there.
Do they?
They're only like $5.
That's so nice. Are they like thin ones that I can wear in the summer?
They're cute. They're this bright orange one. It's so cute.
Okay. Let's see. So put everything that's not related to this class away. Not good at competing. Okay. So somebody tell us where we ended last time. We were talking
The changes.
changes.
Cycle changes. We got to conflict.
Is it just water in that?
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Okay, so we started last time going through each of these stages, and what did we do as we were playing with the different stages and we got to contemplation? What's the essence, what's the idea behind each of these stages? Why is this important for us to know? We played with that a little last time, right?
Can't overwhelm or like
Offend them?
I don't know, like just jump right into you have to do this or something.
Yeah. Knowing where they are guides us to what kinds of activities we can be doing with them that will work. Let's continue with these, going through the different stages. So if somebody is at pre-contemplation, what were the three things that they're thinking, that they might be thinking? What?
Okay.
I'm happy how I am, no need to change. Nothing wrong with me. Can't do anything about it. Is that all three? Happy how I am, in other words, there's no need to change. I can't do anything about it. Or helping, or changing won't make any difference. Or they may not even know that there's a need to change, kind of that same thing. Okay? At contemplation, what's the different mindset that they have there?
Maybe something's wrong.
Yeah, there might be something worth looking at, yeah. I had never thought of this, but, and then whatever follows that is the changed thought. Maybe I should do something about my body fat percent or whatever. The interesting thing that at this point, it says on this page, they're usually, it's at this time that they start gathering information. They don't consciously seek out help so much at this stage, but they're kind of looking, online is our go-to place now, but they're kind of, what happens if I smoke too much? Is this really this bad kind of thing? So they're kind of taking in what information is available to kind of, bless you, to get them thinking in a motivated sort of way of, I should do something. Okay. So at some point they will leave that stage of contemplation and they go into what we call the preparation stage. And in this stage, they kind of dabble with the change. So what would be some examples of that you can think of? What would be some obvious ways that people would be dabbling? I've got a few on there, but can you think of even people who you know?
My mom's like, I'm gonna stop drinking soda this week and see how it goes.
Okay, good. I'm going to test the waters and see how I feel by not drinking soda. Good, good example. Any others that you can think of?
Prices the gyms.
Good.
See
Yep.
what it would cost to stop.
Good. You guys hear her? I don't know why that fan is on. And the funny thing is, we've all been in each of these stages. We've all done these before. At some point, with some component of health and well-being. You know, I think of the person who is considering doing yoga, you know, on a positive sort of vein, as opposed to stopping a negative, implementing a positive. So in pre-contemplation, the person doesn't even consider yoga. What's that? I don't need anything that sounds like yogurt. Contemplation, what is he thinking? Yoga. Now that's a thought. Maybe I should consider trying that. Maybe sometime down the road. Preparation. I'm going to see what yoga looks like, and they go online and they look at all the videos, and there's 7,000 videos, and they're looking through. And then they'll try something, they'll, oh, let me try this Warrior 17 pose. And they, well, there's not a Warrior 17, is there? And then they test it to see how it feels for them. Doesn't mean they're adopting it at all, but they're testing it, okay? In action phase, the action phase, they're basically trying the behavior. So now the person is, okay, I'm going to go to this yoga class. I'm going to put down the soft drinks and see what happens. They're not just considering it anymore. Now it's a conscious action. They're doing it, okay? Now, at first, and this is oftentimes where the coaching ends. Unfortunately, when somebody has started on this new lifestyle, they have, oh, finally, he's not smoking anymore. Good. I can leave him, you know, on his own. Has been a conscious way of the approach that we incorrectly take sometimes is, whew, he's not drinking anymore, or man, finally got him out, got him his shoes. Now he's out on the trails running around. It says there, successful experiences tend to motivate, unsuccessful experiences thwart motivation. So what would be an example of an unsuccessful experience that would thwart motivation? You've got somebody, no, that person has made the decision to try blank, and it turns out to be a negative experience.
They start out exercising way too much, and so then they get hurt, and so then they associate pain, like in a negative connotation.
Good example. Yeah, that's why people I think don't weightlift very much, because weightlifting after your first time, if you haven't lifted in a long time, kind of hurts. Whatever muscle group you're working with, kind of hurts. Some people don't like that pain. Good. Other examples?
Somebody quit smoking and has a cigarette a week later and figures, well, why am I even trying?
Okay, that could be. Or they could quit smoking. Two other things came to my mind. One might be a little longer. What do smokers often say happens immediately when they stop smoking? Yep. I'd rather be skinny and smoke than fat. So, going back to smoking. What else happens when a person stops smoking? What's a side effect of if you've been a 2-pack or a pack-a-day smoker and then you're not smoking anymore?
You're hacking other jobs.
Okay, is that what you
Well,
do?
that's honestly what you do. You quit smoking, whether it's
So
a
you're-
pack a day or a half a pack a day, or even just a few cigarettes a day. Your lungs start to clear out. Within 24 hours, you start coughing and you continue to cough. And eventually, after about a week or two, it stops because it started coughing all that tar and stuff is coming out of your lungs. But a lot of people are like, I felt better when I was smoking.
Yeah.
Because I didn't cough like this. You know, and
Or the coming off of the nicotine addiction. Man, I remember when I was in Southern Illinois, there was this student. She was a fellow student, and she was so addicted to coffee, it was just ridiculous. The caffeine in coffee. And we had this conference, this AIDS workshop. We had 3 days where we just learned everything you need to know about AIDS. Back then, it was a big deal. And she came to it was the second day of the class. It was all day long, like from 8 until 5 for 3 days. Horrible. And the second day, she was in class, and she was just sitting there, and she just started going like this. She had no idea. After a while, about 10 minutes later, she was like, and then we said, I'm trying to remember her name. Wendy, let's say her name's Wendy. Wendy, you're rocking. Shut up! Something wrong. Get out of my face! She was gonna bite somebody's head off. And we said, please, go have your coffee. It's so bad for her. Because she was trying to wean herself off, and that was the wrong time. So we said, I'll go get your coffee for you. I don't know how to make coffee, but I'll get it. Because it was just such a negative experience for her to be in that action phase and experiencing the downside of it. Okay, but action is where they're actually doing whatever it is that they have decided. That's the target behavior. Maintenance simply implies what? What?
Continuing.
Yeah, it's turning into a habit where it goes from a novelty, new kind of let's play with this to, yeah, now I do yoga. Instead of I'm trying yoga, they say I do yoga, or I no longer smoke. Or, yeah, I'm working out today like I do every day. That's maintenance stage. There's no right number. I've heard that 6 months is about how long it takes for a smoker, and then tell me if this is accurate, for a smoker to say, okay, I'm a non-smoker now. It takes about 6 months. I don't know if that's...
For most people. For me, when I quit smoking, I think it was after about a month, because I made it a whole month. When I'd tried it every time before, it was maybe a day, and I was like, I can deal with it. And then, but let's see, how long did I smoke for? 6 years. 6 years we've been smoke free. But I've had friends that it's about 6 to 8 months, and they're like, okay, I'm not going to start again.
Yeah, it takes about that long. And how many times does it typically take for a smoker to stop before they...
It takes
A lot of times, huh?
A lot of times, right.
So they do a lot of going from action back into preparation, action back into preparation, back and forth, back and forth. People who are working on weight control, they bounce back and forth a lot between those two. Because they're still in the preparation phase. Yeah, I know, I gotta do this. What's the next thing? And the stupid way is what? You know, here's this diet. I'm gonna try this diet for two weeks. And here's this diet. I'm gonna try this one for 2 weeks. And they dabble in other things. The maintenance phase is, it is a lifestyle where they're eating, wisely, as a way of being. Considerations down there. People may be in specific stages for long periods of time. They may only briefly stay in a specific stage. It's really one of the things that we struggle with as experts, as people who get it about wellness, is we want people to shoot through those really fast. Let's get your shoes on, let's go jog. I'll jog with you. because I know what's best for you, right? We have that mentality of, this is what you need to do, and don't wait too long in thinking about it. And we really can't be in a hurry. We have to be super patient with people. And some people, it might take years before they go from contemplation to preparation stage. It might be years before they go from preparation. I know plenty of people who've been in preparation phase for years. And you can't hurry them along. Now, are there any questions about this? Does this make sense to everyone? Yes? Okay. So the next thing I want to show you, really, really cool. This is this is not related at this point with the stages of change, but in a minute we'll see how it is, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So, I don't remember where I got this. I apologize. I didn't put the reference on here. But this came from I'm sorry, I don't remember. Counselors and psychologists work with people all the time, trying to figure out what works for people to move in particular directions. And there are thousands and thousands of ways that people have tried. You know, this is the motivation side, the psychological or the supportive piece. And what they found is, of those many, many different ways, there's basically, I think there's nine ways of all the ways that are out there that people use to help people, fix isn't the right word, but make changes. There's basically only 9 that seem to work. That's a profound thing right there, and this is based on research, based on individuals' experiences, but there's only 9 ways that seem to work of all the ways to help somebody make any kind of change or to help them to adjust whatever behavior they're wanting to adjust. And these are them. These are the ones. And so I want to go through these with you so that you understand, what we're talking about. This is from a counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist point of view. Okay? So, and I just want to go through these because in a minute what we're going to realize, or what somebody really smarter than me has done, is they figured out where these fit in the stages of change so that you can know, okay, they're at this stage, here's what you do. They're at this stage, here's what you do. That works. They have this, we play with this in the coaching class, but they found that there's 3 commonly used, this isn't on the page, but there's 3 commonly used ways that people try to motivate people that do not work. And there's a book that I read, and we use it in the wellness coaching class. It's called Change or Die is the name of the book. And he looks at, he's done a thorough job, the guy who wrote this did a thorough job of looking at the different ways that people are motivated. And he figured out that there are 3 common ways that people think, oh, well, I'm going to do this to try to motivate people to make changes. And they don't work. And it's the 3 F's. So these don't work. And we still use them a little bit in this class, but when it comes to one-on-one, and this is primarily one-on-one stuff, they call them the 3 F's. And the first one is fear. So, and we actually played with that in here a little bit, but why do you think fear, as far as for lasting change, doesn't tend to work? Why do you think, what's the psychology you would guess, why using fear on somebody doesn't seem to work for lasting change? Amanda?
If it doesn't actually happen to them eventually, then they'll be like, oh, it's not gonna happen to me, and then they'll fall back into their.
I'll never get diabetes. You can tell me all you want about diabetes, but I'll never get it. Yeah, sure, people have their legs chopped off. I see a picture of somebody with their leg chopped off. My uncle has a leg chopped off. It's true. I don't need to worry. It's not going to happen to me. Okay, can you think of any other reasons why fear may not work?
The initial shock wears off.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, I'm scared. And then a week later, it's like, I'm scared.
Yeah. Fear doesn't seem to work, and it's not something that we would want to, when we're working with somebody and we say, well, geez, you got to stop smoking or you're going to get lung cancer. Which leads to the next thing, the next F that doesn't work, which is facts. I have 10 people who are overweight, end up with diabetes. You're overweight. You're going to be one of that 9 out of 10. So you kind of lump those 2 things together. Facts don't work. What's the psychology behind that, do you think? Because we use these all the time. 1,700 people died today from heart disease, according to Healthy People 2010. 1,700 people. Okay, you hear that. What happens in your mind? 1 in 2 people will have heart disease. 1 in 3 people will have some kind of cancer. That's the facts. What happens in your mind when you hear those facts?
That's just a number. That's not you. You're always the exception.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one possible thing that's happening is, that's nice. That happened to me. Interesting, but it kind of, I think it's the same psychology of the other one.
Well, it would be the same way. Well, if I'm gonna get it, then I'll get it, The numbers say I'm gonna get it anyway, so.
It's nothing I can do. You're doomed. Right?
Doomed to suffer, oh well. I'm
And
just
that-
gonna live my life the way I wanna live
Yeah.
it.
If it's 1 and 2, what kind of odds does that give me? Heck. Did you see that hamburger from China or Japan yesterday? There was some hamburger cost, it was like, and I only saw it peripherally on the news.
One that costed a lot of money and had ostrich egg on it.
Yeah, it was just outrageous, this big old, I wish I had paid attention to it. I just kept looking, I was talking to somebody else and I kept looking at it going, might as well have the hamburger that's this big. It's gonna happen anyway. The other F. What do you think let's see how in tune you guys are. What do you think is the third F that absolutely doesn't work and it's tried all the time? It's tried a lot, let's say.
Fun.
What?
Fun.
No?
Dang it, I was trying.
Good, good.
Force.
Yeah, force. This is happening in New York right now. What's the force in New York? You can't have them.
You can have what?
Over
You
16.
can't have a
Over
service
16
over
ounces.
16 ounces.
They won't, is it in restaurants, they won't serve them anymore? Or
It's in
7-Elevens, I didn't,
I think it's everywhere.
you can't have them.
That's my.
What happens psychologically when somebody says to you, and it's something you like, says you can't have it?
That's
Yeah.
not right.
You are going to do everything possible to get it. Kidding me? I can't. This happens a lot. They're starting to block off places where I jog up in the hills above my house. In North Ogden, they're starting to put signs, no trespassing here, no trespassing here. The guy who owns this huge lot of land is just an idiot.
The elk thing,
Huh?
you read all the, something like elk or something like that, is it?
Not enough to be worrisome. No, it's just, and so the instant I saw that, I went, screw you, I'm going here. You know, I just kept, I don't want him to get in the way of my trails I've been running on for years. Force does not seem to work. And Prohibition was a perfect example of this, wasn't it? Where as soon as they said, no drinking, what happened? Everyone drank more. Yeah, it was worse.
So New York will turn into other bootleggers for soda.
They will. Yeah, they'll be mail ordering it from Canada or New Jersey.
You have to specify what kind of Coke you want when you're talking to your dealer.
You want 36 ounces of which? That'd be a lot. That'd be very expensive. So these don't work. And these are things that people frequently turn to try to persuade people, try to motivate them, try to get them thinking, okay, maybe I should make a change. Well, these on these 2 pages are what do work. And so I want to just explore these a little bit. Let's try to think of examples as we're doing this. I wrote some examples there, but try to think before you read thoroughly through those examples. What would be some examples, that you've seen or done? So the first one is consciousness raising. It says increase the amount of information available, increase the amount of knowledge, increase the amount of knowledge about the nature of the problem. Okay? And I wrote, well, if you're trying to lose weight but unaware that your body can adjust quickly to dieting by lowering its basal metabolism, which in turn leads to burning fewer calories, then you may be baffled when your diet doesn't work immediately. Your elevated consciousness may help you to make adjustments in your approach to weight loss. What are some other things that we see? What's the most obvious consciousness raising that's in our culture? What?
Tobacco.
And what's, what?
The truth about tobacco.
Yeah, perfect. The commercials that you see, and there's a lot of them now. There was another one yesterday I saw. The black guy who, what?
Although I can't heart surgery,
Yeah, and he opened his shirt and went, oh, there's a big line there. The other lady who's getting ready for work and she has a hole in her. Yeah. Consciousness raising. That's examples of consciousness raising. There's a little bit of this going on, but you're still going, man, I had no idea that could be an outcome from smoking. Consciousness raising. Where else do we see, what are some other common places where we see consciousness raising? both in positive ways and in, to improve the positive or to eliminate the negative. What did you say?
Billboards.
Yeah. Give an example.
It's just like down on the freeway, there was one about like tattoos and stuff, like the asphalt one. It's like the quickest way to remove a tattoo is to wear your seatbelt. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was
I've seen that. What?
I think that was a motorcycle. Or a helmet or something like that.
Was it?
Yeah.
So, and there's another perfect example of, awareness raising, consciousness raising. Putting it in your head little bit at a time. You're not trying to make them change, you're just make them, it's kind of wake up. Consciousness raising is a wake up call.
I would have to say the doctor's office. Because you sit in the doctor's office, there's pamphlets there, you get bored. You sit there for an hour waiting anyway, so you're reading.
You're forced to read the.
In my doctor's office, they have a TV on the wall that only plays health-related things,
Oh,
diabetes,
there you
etc.
go.
It talks about the advantages of quitting smoking, the disadvantages of continuing being sedentary. So you're just sitting there for an hour waiting anyway, and you're being exposed to
Yeah.
all kinds of.
Here's mammogram. Here's why you should get one. Here's information about one. And if it's never crossed your mind to have one, and you're in the doctor's office and you see that, it goes lights on kind of thing. Yeah. What do you think?
Looking over a lot of these, I think that because we're coming from the psychological counselors and their standpoint, a good counselor never tells you what your problems are. They help you realize what your own problems are. And so a lot of these different methods are realizations.
Mhm.
Like if you can get someone to think for themselves the way that you want them to think about health, if you can slowly move them towards a goal, or if you get them their goal, what they want versus what you want.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a
Absolutely.
combination of the two of changing their thought process to a
Mhm.
more healthy one. I
Mhm.
think that's what a lot of these do.
Yes, you're exactly right. We have 3 rules in wellness coaching when you get to that class. We have 3 rules. The first rule is the client finds the answers. The second rule is the client finds the answers. The third rule is the client finds the answers. There are no other rules.
Can you repeat those?
Yeah. And so you're exactly right. We're trying to get them, and why does that make sense? Why would we want them to be the one who finds the answers? Why is it what you said so accurate?
Opposite of force. They actually desire to do it versus doing the opposite because they're forced or someone tells you to do something. It's like when your mom tells you to clean your room when you're a kid. You're not going to clean it just because she told you to. But when you're older and you have a messy room, you're like, I want to clean this just because you're not told to do it. You want to do it for yourself.
Yeah, you've taken ownership of it. You've taken responsibility for it. And when that happens, it's a real motivation as opposed to an imposed one.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Does that make sense to you guys? So valuable. So very, very valuable. Okay, social liberation. It says, this involves new alternatives that the external environment can give to you to begin or continue change, such as no smoking areas, low-fat menu items. It says, because social liberation is an external force, some people resist, bless you, some people resist and resent the change depending on the stage of change they are in. And we'll play with that in a second. But what are some other examples that you can think of that would be where it's not necessarily forced, but kind of created, that a person could create for themselves? Let's see, I want to... if you go to the next page, there's an alternative to this, or a variation to this, called environmental control, which says this is restructuring your environment so the probability of a problem-causing event is reduced. So it says, and we'll hit countering in a second, but examples would be removing narcotics or alcohol from your home, a no smoking sign, or a warning on the refrigerator door. Now, go back to this one, the social liberation. This involves new alternatives that the external environment can give to you to begin or continue change. What does this mean, do you think, or what are some examples that are different than this environmental control?
Like how McDonald's has how many calories are on their hamburgers now.
Okay,
And like just the nutritional facts.
so just so that you can see what you're eating,
Yeah.
kind of thing, an external thing, yeah, good.
Some elementary, junior high, high schools used to offer just pizza, you know, cheeseburger and fries, but now they're offering more healthy items like salad and fruits and vegetables.
Okay, good one. What else is happening in the schools that would be an example of this?
The healthy choice vending machines.
Yeah. Yeah, rather than just Snickers bars, Three Musketeer bars, and you know, whatever, $100,000 bars as your choices. They include other kinds of things, apples, oranges, real drinks, real fruit drinks, that kind of thing as an externally placed.
Wouldn't like a stress relief sound? Feed something to fill on that? Some school kind of thing.
That would be a good one. Wow, good call.
What, as well as the gym too?
Could be, yeah, that would make sense, that where there's somebody else has placed this in there for you. That's the idea of the social liberation, is somebody else has placed it there for you. That's very good. Those are some, I hadn't even thought of those, but that makes perfect sense. So that you have access to them. What you didn't have access to before. Good? Okay, the next one, emotional arousal. Parallels consciousness raising, but works on a deeper feeling level and is equally important in the early stages of change. It's a significant, often sudden emotional experience related to the problem at hand. The focus is on the affective domain. Examples: fear, arousal methods, role-playing, stories of real-life tragedies. Now, on one hand, we said, okay, it probably doesn't work, but we can still use some components of it to help us with awareness raising at an emotional level. So what might be some examples of that?
It's more of like telling like a story kind of thing rather than facts of fear. Like if you don't quit smoking, you're gonna die. It's like the billboards, like with the lady with the whole anecdote in that commercial you're talking about.
Okay, so you can see that the difference between the two is the one is, you know, information gathering. The other is something. I never thought of that. We said last time, what did we say is the most powerful variable that can hit us at that level? What?
Stories.
Did I mention that in here?
You said fear.
We're talking about like personal stories.
No, there is one. I must not have mentioned that in here because I know you remember. There is one element. There's one. Yeah, doctor. Did I mention that? When a doctor says, you really need to do this, or you really need to do that, or if you have some kind of a personal tragedy, or somebody close to you has a personal tragedy as a result of this or that behavior, I think that's why so few people skydive. Because all it takes is one person crashing and dying at the airport over here for people to go, that's enough. Even if one person dies, I ain't doing it.
There's no reason to jump out of a pretty good airplane.
It's so fun.
I would want to do it too. Go ahead.
I think that the difference between this, the emotional, and fear is that, for example, in one of my classes we watched a commercial about this one lady who was a smoker and then she got cancer, and it was like this 5-minute segment. And so when you use fear, it's like, this is going to happen to you. But when you use emotion, you say, this is what happened to them, and it could happen to you as well. And it puts them in a scenario where they think for themselves that maybe it could happen. Where fear, you're telling them, where in emotional arousal, they're putting pieces together where it could apply to them.
But at an emotional level.
Yeah.
What was that documentary, the 30-day eat at McDonald's guy? Supersize Me. I think that's a perfect example. And what you're saying, that's probably, that would fit into what you just said. Where you see what happens to this guy as a result of just eating McDonald's. And you're going, wow, no idea. I don't want that. Got it?
I think where we hit me the most from that is at the very end of the show. Well, throughout the show, they show this jar of the French fry. At the very end of the show, the French fry is still in that jar, and there's no mold.
It's still
There's nothing wrong
perfect
with it.
condition.
It looks just like a brand new French fry. That's really scary to me.
So-
Because it went through months and months
Yeah.
sitting in this jar, and nothing happened to it.
And when you say, that's really scary, that's an emotion that tends to, I might want to reconsider McDonald's so much. Good. Okay. Self-reevaluation. Thoughtful reappraisal of your problem, see how your problem behavior conflicts with your values. Example, how do you perceive yourself as a gambler, a drinker, or a sedentary person? How do you see yourself? If you change your behavior, and I love this, this last sentence, and this is the one that hit me many years ago. I'd been diagnosed with high blood pressure, and I gained a lot of weight as a result of going and being a missionary. And when I came home, you know, and somebody said to me this question, and it made all the difference in the world for me. He said, if you continue to do what you're doing now, that last sentence there, will things get better or worse? That is such a powerful sentence, I think. You continue to do what you're doing now, will things get better or worse? If they're going to get worse, I mean, and then you let them, kind of what you were saying, you let them make that evaluation, rather than you saying, this is what's going to happen to you. You let them go, well, I'm still, reminded me of the Brian Reagan, went to my doctor, and he was testing his cholesterol, and he hadn't done anything. How could his cholesterol have gone down if he hadn't done anything differently? People can know natural outcomes. I mean, people are aware of natural outcomes if they're presented to them in a way that that's not threatening or imposing. You know, sit around on your butt all day long. If you continue to do that, are things going to get better for you? Did you have a?
Well, along with that question, I think another question is, if you continue to do what you're doing now, are you going to be happier in the long run? Because I have a friend, we were best friends in high school, and she has the same morals and values as I do, but now she lives in Vegas and she's a stripper, and she's gained a lot of weight, she's not very happy, and so I'm still her friend, and I say that as long as you're happy, go for it. And she called me a couple days ago, and she's like, I'm not happy. Just posing that statement to her over and over. She thought about it, and now she's trying to make changes in her life. So if you continue to do what you're doing, are you going to be happier in the long run?
Yeah. Happier, healthier, more at peace. In any of those deeply held values. I mean, happiness is a value that all of us hold, or most people hold. I like to be happy. That's a good thing. I like to feel peaceful. I like to feel joy from time to time. If I continue to do what I'm doing now, am I going to have that?
First might be I like to feel clothed.
That's
You what?
or not.
A friend likes to feel clothed.
I think, And when we get into it, when you get into the coaching class, we play with this idea a lot, where we ask lots of questions. We learn to ask the better questions that help somebody to go. You know, like for example, another question that if you continue to do what you're doing, I mean, we have them pair what they're doing with the things they value, and if they value their family, for example. The question we could ask them is something like, how much do you want to be around in 10 years to be able to play with your family? If you continue to do what you're doing now, are you going to be able to do that? You know? And so they're getting to reevaluate. You're not imposing that on them. And that's hugely, I mean, what you said is so right on the nose. They get to be the ones who go, yeah, I need to. You see the power of that one. Commitment, sometimes called self-liberation. This is an acknowledgement that you are the only one who's able to respond, speak, and act for yourself. This is where you're getting the buy-in. The first step of commitment is private, telling yourself you're choosing to change. The second step involves going public. And I don't know if this has to be in all the time, the public piece. Announcing to others that you've made a firm decision to change. It says here, public commitments are much more powerful than private ones. Why do you think, and I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but why do you think that has the potential of being powerful? When you, so let's say you say, okay, now I'm going to manage my stress by meditating and doing yoga and exercising every week, several times a week. So you've made that, okay, I'm doing it. You've got the buy-in. Why is it even more powerful? Why might it be even more powerful when you go public with that?
Yeah.
I don't know, like when I tell my husband like I'm gonna do this, he kind of checks up on me and like kind of gives me that support. Like, are you doing this? Like, try, like, I don't know. It's easier for me to do something if I have someone like supporting me and I know I have that support and kind of checking up on me than if it's just like myself, because I can just be like, oh, it's okay, I messed up today, but I can start again tomorrow. But if I have that other person,
Good.
I'm trying to please like him too, not just myself.
And good. And what else happens psychologically when you say this to somebody else?
I think we don't want to let people down that we're like, oh, I'm going to quit smoking, and then you start smoking again. It's like, oh, I let those people down. They thought I was going to do this, and then I didn't.
How many, excellent example, how many people do you know who sign up for the marathon, stay in the marathon because they're doing it with their friends? And if they don't run the marathon with them, you're scum. You're not going to do it with us? Come on. Happens all the time. Now we hit this again in the helping relationships piece. Go to this one because it sort of expands on this. Allowing care support and other forms of assistance from the significant people in your life to help modify your behavior. It's not about going it alone. The helping relationship is the most frequently enlisted change process in psychotherapy. It's also a critical that's a bad sentence. Should say it is of critical importance to self-changers, whether you turn to a professional, friend, member, the family, or the clergy. The helping relationship provides support, caring, understanding, and acceptance. Okay, why is that? Okay, you mentioned, you know, that commitment to somebody else. What else happens when you have that support from somebody? What's the one organization that uses this more than any other so successfully? Yep. They have one person who works with one person. I don't know if they work with more than one, but I know that they have individual, what do they call those? Sponsors, yeah. made me laugh when I thought of that. I went to an AA meeting when I was in my health promotion program at BYU. I went to an AA meeting down there in Provo, and it was so great. All these, and I think AA is wonderful. I think it's one of those successful programs that keeps working and keeps doing good things. But the interesting thing that I found was, that I noticed when I was at this meeting was, you know, all the people were up there and, hello, my name is Mike. Hi, Mike. I've been dry, or I haven't had a drink for how many, and they're applauding and stuff. Then at every break they go out and smoke like crazy. Just cranking down cigarettes, everybody. So they transferred that need to another one that is not so healthy for them. But that support piece works. Are you a drinker too? But you didn't ever try out Monks Anonymous?
I went with a friend of mine because she wouldn't go unless somebody went with her.
Oh, you did?
So I did the.
So you were this. You were the helping relationship
Yeah.
person.
Until she got to the point where she knew other people there, and then she was able to go by herself. So I know about the program, and I sat in the program. I know a lot of people who've gone through the program.
Yeah.
So.
You have gone through it. So you had a sponsor who worked with you. Does that person still?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I mean, you talk to me pretty much any day.
Does he contact you
Either way.
regularly? So, and to what extent would you say that has been helpful for you? Yeah. Very powerful. I applaud anyone who has that, and I think that's, if we could incorporate that, I think that's one of those roles that we want to take on, though we haven't figured out how to get compensated for it. But as a wellness coach, you know, you kind of, okay, you're good, and I'll leave you alone. And then I think if we became the sponsors, we had that same attitude as a wellness coach, where we're continuously checking in with the person who is working on whatever behaviors he or she is doing, then I think we'd have fantastic results. Because we've got the model right there with AA that absolutely works. So, going back to the other one. So commit, let's see. We were talking about the private or the public commitment. I have never been, the reason why I can't relate to this as much is this is something I have never done. I have never, and some of you are probably like this, I have never needed somebody else to say to them, okay, I'm now going to work out 3 times a week. Did you know that I'm working out 3 times a week? I'm going to go exercise 3. I've never, that doesn't feel good for me to need to have to tell somebody. And I'll bet some of you are like that, where you just do stuff and you don't have to have that. But there's a lot of people who are, and I'm not saying that's any better or worse at all. That's just my nature. Are any of you like that? Where you just, when I decide something, I just do. I don't. And when I tell people, I feel like, I want to tell them. I just want to do it.
It's kind of what a wedding's all about, though, isn't it?
Just go low.
In what way?
Well, that you don't, I mean, you're not just having a ceremony between you and your wife, you're displaying in front of everybody, and it kind of holds you accountable. So,
How else you can
Gets
you don't
how
have
it's
much people.
that's true.
Good. $4,000 worth of crap.
I mean, I guess there's an element there if you want your friends
Yeah.
and family there, but still.
No, I can see that.
Sometimes you just don't. I'm getting married in November and we're eloping, and it, because our entire family's off. How's it eloping? It's fine. Well, because we're going to San Diego. And then going on a cruise. And we're spending the night in New York.
Yeah.
And our entire family.
They're really mad. So they're not supporting you at all.
Well, and they love that we're getting married. They're just mad that they can't come.
I told my daughter, if you want to get married, just go. He's with him every day, all day long anyway. Just take care of it. Okay. Countering. This is cool, and we've all done this. I guarantee we've all done this. This is substituting healthy responses for unhealthy ones, or counter conditioning. All of our behavior is conditional. We're more likely to overeat when dining out than when eating at home, to abuse alcohol when anxious than when relaxed, to smoke when bored than when active, or to feel emotionally distressed when alone than with when with friends. Right? Yeah, that should be there. Almost any activity can be an effective countering technique. For example, a drug user may choose to go jogging or counter the urge to get high. Or a sedentary person may seek out a family member to spend time with instead of disappearing on the couch. There are many different good countering activities. The trick lies in finding ones that will work for you. The idea behind countering is everyone does everything they do so that they will feel a certain way. See if that's true for you. Ultimately, we do everything because we want to feel a certain way. I haven't found an exception to that. And so if you look at, can you think of any? Say that. Body language instead of. Can you think of any? No, can you think of everything you do? Ultimately, you're after a feeling. Yes? You get up in the morning and you go do things in your day because you want the feeling of success or accomplishment or, you know, camaraderie with other people, as opposed to boredom of just lying in bed. Everything. And so when you take the addictions and you understand that everyone's doing everything, they're only after a feeling. The only right reason why people do drugs is because it feels better at that moment to do the drug than not. The only reason why people eat Twinkies is because at that moment it feels better to eat the Twinkie than to not. Countering says, let's put something else in its place that will fill this feeling. We can't leave a void. We can't just say, you got to get rid of this. They tried that when I don't know if you, those of you who were in my stress management class, I tell about the guy who came and he tried to exorcise all the rock and roll music from our lives. It's evil, it's bad, and they proved it. It's satanic stuff. Play it backwards, see, it's all evil.
Subliminal message.
Yeah, it was right there.
On a record, there was one that you played backwards that says it's fun to smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
That was another one bites the dust by
Yeah,
Twinkie.
another one.
Everyone's heard that.
Yeah.
Class.
They did that in my music class when I was in music.
Did they really?
Yeah, you just played it backwards.
It's hilarious. There's all kinds of evil stuff when you play it backwards. And so he said to us, and this is the thing that bothered me about him, and it made such a glaring error in his approach. He said, all right, go home and burn it. Throw away your records, throw away, you know, this was the beginning of tapes back then. And he didn't give us anything to fill that void. When I listen to certain kinds of music, it is so that I get the feeling of that music. So it kind of energizes me. I still run to 70s rock when I run, because it gives me a feeling that is pushing me along. He didn't give me anything to replace it. So he left a void. And I think that's one of the things that is one of the reasons why people go back to drugs over and over and over again. Because they don't have an alternative that is as good of a feeling as that drug and that chemical that they created, that they had the high with. nothing else will do that for me.
So a lot of people who actually use drugs to numb some of their old experiences.
Yeah, they're creating a different feeling.
So that I mean, it's just like, okay, for example, you get the same kind of high when you do running consistently as you would when you're on heroin. So.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
So running.
This is what they say, is if you run, you get that same kind of high, you get that euphoria when you hit that run, that second win where you just go as you get when you're on heroin. But to tell that to somebody who uses heroin and try to encourage them to run rather than use is like, they're like, yeah, whatever.
Do any of you remember, speaking of that, do any of you remember what the chemical, it's not endorphins. Do you remember what that was? We said no, in the Mind Body Wellness class, I just learned this like within the last year. We all say, well, you gotta get your endorphins going, right? Well, endorphins are from the neck down apparently. There's a different chemical, and it's interesting that you said that. There's a different chemical, that's what you feel, the high woo feeling when you're running, that is the psychological kind of, but there is an actual chemical. Do you know what it is? No?
GABA?
What?
Is that how you say it?
GABA?
Serotonin?
Does it start with a K?
C.
No,
What? It's cannabinoids. Annacannabinoids.
We were getting.
And what is a similar something that is made up of cannabinoids? Marijuana. That's the high that we get. When you say, you know, it's a similar high, it is the same. It's the same exact chemical. And Molly was the one who actually showed me the research on this. And if Molly says it, it has to be true. They said they've known for quite a while it's not endorphins from here up. From here down, you know, the ones that kind of stop the pain, because your body is giving you signals to keep going, but the woo feeling that you're feeling, that's the equivalent of marijuana. So you're more right than you know. I mean, when you say we're trying to get a similar, we can get a similar feeling, we actually do. I think that's why people love yoga so much when they try it, because they have such amazing feelings when they do. I think that's why people love meditation so much, is when they try it, they have such amazing feelings. It's not the fact that they are able to have a still mind or whatever, but the fact that they feel so differently emotionally, as well as, you know, the physiology that feels more relaxed and all that kind of stuff. That's a countering device that replaces, you know, whatever behaviors they're doing that are stressful, that they don't realize are making such a mess of things. It says the trick lies in finding the ones that will work for you. And that's where the art of wellness coaching is so tricky, because you can't know, and so you just, well, what if we tried this? What if we tried, let's try that. Let's give that a go. Because you know what works for you. You know what feels good for you. You know that, you know, maybe for you it's eating a salad. You know, just having a salad, and that or having a jamba juice or something that's real fruit, and you feel so good at it. But for somebody else it might not work. So you just keep trying it, trying and trying, until you find something that replaces the behavior that's having bad natural outcomes to a behavior that doesn't. Environmental control we talked about. Rewards. I remember when I was in, my bachelor's degree was in psychology, and we studied this like crazy. This whole idea of classical conditioning. And they, according to the boys down at BYU, this was the #1 most powerful way for people to adjust behavior. And Tony Robbins is one of those who made $1 billion with this. Literally, he's made $1 billion with this one idea of reward and punishment. Says you can punish problem behavior, you can reward desirable behavior. Now, before you go on to the next lines, which do you think is more powerful? Punishing an undesirable one or rewarding it? Why do you think that's the case?
You'll do it again.
What?
You're willing to do it again if you're gonna.
But punishment, I mean, if I do this, and then I'm going to have that pain.
It's kind of forced then.
Here's a thought for you. You tell me. Because, I mean, I agree with you, but I don't want you to just go, well, let's not think about this. Let's just embrace it and, you know, accept it. If I said to you, let's say somebody in here wants to lose a certain amount of body fat. I don't say lose weight anymore. You wanted to lose a certain amount of your percent body fat. You wanted to go from, say, 20 to 60. And I said to you, I promise you that I'll get you there. I mean, I promise you that I will support you in getting you there. And you said, how? And I said, give me $5,000 of your money. I'm not going to keep it. But, and you decide how long, say 6 months. In 6 months, if you're not there at your percent body fat that you want, I'm giving that $5,000 to the charity you like the least. ACLU or something like that. That's the charity I like the least. What's the likelihood you're going to reach your goal? If you knew that those guys were going to get your money. Think it through. Do you think you would?
Yeah.
It's not a very desirable way of looking at things, but that way does work.
But you might not maintain it.
Oh, I'm not, there's no question that there's going to be challenges down the road. And the truth is, maintaining happens far more from the positive bumping you than the punishment. We know from kids behaviors, you punish, 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 and it doesn't, that just makes resistance more than anything.
It just feels good as being.
But it still works because we as human beings will do more to avoid pain than anything else. We don't like to be in pain. And so avoiding it, whatever way we have to do it, and if that means, so if I want to avoid that heart attack, that could be the punishment for the diabetes. That can be the punishment, and you can impose whatever punishment you want in that. That can be powerful, but the opposite side of that is more powerful. But it says punishment is rarely used by successful self-changers or therapists and coaches. We don't do it at all in coaching. Rewards are often successfully used to change behavior. And you could include in there for a longer period of time as well. And so, example, self-praise, a present, a bet, nearly anything that could bring satisfaction. So you set out for yourself, if I do this, then this is what I will gain. I will get a new car. I think of my son and some friends of his who all the parents said, okay, you can get your license once you get your Eagle Scout. That's what all the parents said in our neighborhood. They said, you can have your license once you get your Eagle Scout. Is that motivation? They all got their Eagle Scout. except for one, and he can't, he still isn't driving. He still isn't able to take driver's ed or whatever, but.
He's 25.
It does. I saw, man, did you?
Yeah, I just have a comment. Yesterday was like a 7-on-7 football game where my son was playing, and I was sitting next to a couple from out of Salt Lake, and they were talking about a coach that had been fired from a high school because he was in the locker room. The kids were playing a game, they went back into the locker room, they were playing poorly. They went back into the locker room, the coach went in and was cussing and swearing at him and telling him what pieces of garbage, explicit. And a kid had pulled out his cell phone and recorded it. And they terminated it. So that was like, when you talked about coaching, it clicked. And I'm like, okay, that's a perfect example of like punishment versus.
Yeah, and the kids don't respond well. Same exact thing happened at Weaver High. Same exact thing. Basketball coach is not there anymore. But if you watch the behavior that follows punishment versus follows praise, most all the time the praise side wins. I don't know why coaches continue to use the other side. It makes no sense at all. Does your coach blast into you?
No, like,
A piece of
we have
trash.
punishments, like physical punishments, but he's never,
Like,
he's
gotta
not
run
a
18
screamer.
ladders if you,
Yeah, like they'll do dives or sprints or something like that.
is that motivating?
Yeah, because we don't want to do it.
So,
Practice is hard enough, you don't want to do the extra
Yeah.
conditioning.
so there is some
It's a good
usefulness to it.
balance, you need the balance for sure, because if they're just pumping rainbows up the butt, you're not gonna do anything better. You're just gonna, well, he's just gonna say, okay, nice try, and I'm just gonna keep making that mistake, and he's just gonna say, well, good next time, kid. Just keep making the mistake, but with punishment on it, okay, I need to make a change, because I don't wanna make my team run anymore.
I think that depends though too, because like
It
some
really
people,
does.
some people are
It's a
really hard on
balance.
themselves. Like,
For sure.
I don't know, I feel like it kind of does it different. Like you know when you have a bad race, you know when you've done something bad, especially at like the college level. Like you're smart enough to know that you obviously didn't do what you're supposed to do, and he'll kind of just let you think about it, and he'll ask you questions and get you to think about it more so than like, oh man, you really did crappy. Like,
Definitely
You don't need to
depends
be
on the
told.
player
Yeah.
and where they are
It does.
mentally, how mentally strong they are, because if you can recognize it, then you are your own worst critic, but if you're a green kid, you need that extra, because think of how many
Yeah.
times getting to this level, how many times were we punished, and that's what got us here.
Mhm.
So it's definitely a balance. So on the
In-
flip side, we had an old coach that would just scream at us, and then when we do it right, finally you did it right, I've been telling you that for how long? So then you just hate you.
Yeah.
And just do it to spite him instead of doing something because you want
Th-
to
There's a
please them.
really fine balance that you have to find. In wellness coaching, we do it very, very, very little. In sports coaching, you have to be careful to know what's the right amount. And some people just have no idea, and so that's all they know is it's trash and rotten food. Helping relationships, we talked about that. Okay, down here at the bottom it says, do not make the mistake of confusing these 9 processes of change with techniques of change. Each process involves a broad strategy that may employ any number of techniques. In other words, there's all kinds, and that's why we played with what comes to mind for examples. That was an example with your coach of a way that would possibly work. Okay? For example, a group of self-changers who are quitting smoking relied on more than 130 different techniques to quit permanently. One elderly woman said that when she earnestly played the piano, her temptations for urges to overeat temporarily vanished. Which one is that? Which one of those methods is that technique? Countering, good. A young man reported that jogging reduced his urges. Both are examples of countering, and the possibility of other examples to the same are only limited by one's creativity. That's the art of wellness coaching, is knowing what technique will work of this particular process. Now, here's where it gets really cool. So the question is, which of these processes work at the various, when you find out where somebody, you find out where somebody is in their stages of change, which is a huge piece of wellness coaching, is just figuring it out. Then the question becomes, what can you do at that stage? And that's what this page is. So, now that we understand the stages, we understand the processes, this kind of goes through and says, so here's what you would do at each of the different stages, what seems to work. So at pre-contemplate, so it says, the key to success is appropriately timed use of a variety of coping skills. So in pre-contemplation, where the person senses no need to change, or doesn't see either resists the need to change or doesn't even know that there's a need to change, what will work at this stage? And it appears that the two things that work the most are consciousness raising. That just makes sense, doesn't it? What, somebody's in pre-contemplation, in other words, they're going, ain't nothing wrong. So you see the billboards, you do the commercials, and they go, oh, got it. Social liberation. So externally, not forced, but externally placed. So the McDonald's, who was it, who said the hamburger and the calories? Yeah, this would be an example where somebody, oh man, I didn't even know there was a lot of fat in this milkshake. Didn't even know. Okay. Those are the two processes that seem to work the best at that level. They're not designed to change the behavior. That person's not ready to have his behavior changed yet. We're just trying to get him to kind of wake up, and those two things seem to work. Then in contemplation, so where they're sensing a problem, they're sensing a bit of the nudging. Maybe I should do something about this. What seems to work there? Apparently, the emotional arousal. So getting somebody a little bit more at the feeling level. I put in there, it says the smashed car on I-77 in West Virginia. I think I might have mentioned this in here. There was a billboard that had half a car. Did I tell you about that in here? No. There was in between our home and Charleston, West Virginia, it was a really beautiful drive through the mountains of West Virginia. But at one place in this, on this drive, there was a billboard, and there was half a car stuck in the billboard, and it had been smashed. And somehow they got it up there, and they said, the family of 5, something to the effect, the family of 5 who were driving this car died because of a drunk driver. And you drive by that, it's really, these guys died in that car because of somebody who's drinking. That's that emotional arousal piece. Self-reevaluation seems to work at this level as well, where you ask them kind of continue to do what you're doing, are these the outcomes you want? What do you value, and what are you doing, and do those two things align? If not, are there things that you can do that maybe might be worth considering or changing? So at that stage, those are the two primary things that seem to work. Now they've decided to change, they need to prepare. So in the preparation phase, it seems like, or it appears that the two things, let's see, we got, two things that seem to work. Excuse me, just one that it's at this phase, and that is the commitment. And this is the one on the bottom of the first page on this process of change, where they have gotten the buy-in. They are saying, yes, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to do it, and whether they tell somebody else about it or not, both of those are what they're doing at this stage. This can't happen earlier. Does that make sense to you guys? You couldn't do this process at the pre-contemplation stage. Does that make sense? That's why I love this so much, because it gives you the right tool at the right time when you're working with somebody. Once they've made the commitment and the plan, and they've made their own plans, then they're at the action stage. And at the action stage, the primary behaviors or the processes that seem to work at this stage are countering, where they're finding other things that are replacing that emotion or that feeling that they liked from the problematic behavior. And then they're also imposing their own environmental conditions. So for example, what are some environmental conditions that you have imposed on yourself that would be examples of this? We didn't really go into this too much. What are some that, every one of us have done this. What are some that you have done that you can think of where you've said, okay, I'm going to change my environment in this way to support me in this behavior?
Just what you buy at the grocery store. So
Yeah.
if you don't buy ice cream, you're not going to eat ice cream.
I am not going to buy big things of chocolate milk anymore. I found that I really like big things of chocolate milk. We noticed that a lot of people, after races, they drink chocolate milk. So we thought, maybe we should have some around after we exercise. But what we've noticed is we just drink it all the time. It's so good. It's like liquid chocolate. What's better than that? And so I started thinking, we should buy that after all. We can make some chocolate, make it hard work to have some, instead of having it just so available.
Hershey's bottle goes really quick.
What?
The Hershey's bottle goes really quick, especially when you have teenagers. They get the big one on 2 weeks. So
It's gone like 3 days.
the big one though?
Yeah.
The really big one?
Really? Well, the chocolate milk that we have is like, the things of milk that you buy. You know what I'm talking about?
A gallon of milk?
I'm talking about mixing.
Oh, the mixing it.
Yeah.
Oh, those go even faster for you. Yeah, but at least you have to work for it, so.
Yeah,
there's
there's
a
a
little
little bit of energy expended, right?
So those two things seem to be what would be the right kinds of processes, and what you do with those is entirely dependent upon your own creativity and your own art as you're working with the person. The maintenance, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I always have workout clothes in my car, so
There you
that I
go.
can't make the excuse of I have to go home and then
Good.
go to the gym.
So that's an environmental condition that you created for yourself to support that behavior. Very good. And that's what I mean. Every one of us have something like that. We put our bike outside, or make sure the tires are full, so that when we get home, we don't have an excuse not to ride it, kind of thing. Good example. Okay. The rewards thing. So there's 3 things that seem to work at this level: countering environmental control and the rewards, by giving yourself this positive bump when you follow through on a behavior. That seems to be a useful thing at this level as well. And then, are you?
Go ahead, your fault.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, well, my thing was I want a new car, but I won't allow myself to have a new car until I graduate
But you know that you're gonna have that, so you've got that to look forward to as a reward.
Just keep me motivated to continue.
There you go.
Because I've gone to summer school, 4 years in a row? I'm a little bit burnt out. Just a little bit.
People don't get
That's
burned
my
out.
goal too, when I get my bachelor's in literature.
Getting this,
Do what we
enjoy.
want, huh?
And that works, doesn't it? We
I was
just
gonna
need.
buy myself an ice cream, damn.
I know.
Yeah, you're spoiled. Yay, I did it. I'll take 2 scoops.
Far's ice cream,
Yeah.
never tasted so good. The maintenance stage, hands down, the most powerful thing that, and what we talk about a ton in the wellness coaching classes, that supporting piece, having somebody there who's with you to keep you going so that you don't relapse. Relapse is gonna happen, we've all relapsed, the people we work with will relapse. And as we stay with them and keep working with them, the likelihood for them continuing to do it skyrockets. When you work with people who are, you're involved with a lot of personal training, right? When you work with them, do you find that they continue?
Yeah.
They continue to come back when you call them? I mean, that's on a very positive behavior kind of thing, it works. Probably wouldn't work at the pre-contemplation phase stage. It does work in the maintenance stage. Does this make sense to you guys? When I came upon this was, and this is like one little tiny piece of the wellness coaching class, but when I came upon this, I thought, how useful is this? And you have to be very out of your own mind of what you think is the right thing to do. You know, because I don't know if you remember the other day when I said, well, what would you do? And a few of you said, well, I would do this and I'd do this. Now are you thinking a little differently about how you would approach somebody when they come to you with this or that problem, or when you notice there's a problem, or when they want to make some changes? Can you see how you might approach things from a slightly different way? To me, this was such a revelation. It was such an amazing, wow. I had no idea. And we can understand now why we have so many failures when we are doing this kind of thing without some background. Okay. Thoughts, questions? So I have a little job for you, Brian. So what I'd like you to do, I put together a few scenarios. Some of them are actual ones that I have worked with, some of them I just made up. And what I would like you to do, it says, in each instance below, identify the likely stage of change in which the person finds him or herself. Then, based on your assessment, determine an appropriate process of change. So, and you've already kind of got the answer to this on that last page I gave you, but I just want you to see if that really would fit here. And then, finally, decide on a counseling activity that would be appropriate for the person who came to you for wellness coaching, and explain why you would select this activity. So, for example, a 17-year-old girl is obese. Recently, she dropped over 10 pounds eating only apples and chicken broth. So I made this one up. She refuses to eat anything else, but still wants to lose about 60 more pounds. What stage of change is she likely in? Why do you say action? Because she's doing something about it. Okay. She might be, and if I were looking at this and I saw what she's doing, I would move back some and say she's dabbling. And so, besides, see, we said 90% of wellness coaching is the psychological piece. 10% is teaching them stuff. This person needs a little bit of guidance when it comes to nutrition, which is part of your wellness coaching. Is, okay, we need to relook at what is going to help you burn calories or not. You're starving yourself. Whatever you eat, you're going to hold on to them more. But for this assignment, I just want you to say, okay, what stage of change in? She's probably dabbling. She's, I would say, preparation stage, maybe contemplation, probably preparation. So what is the likely best process for change? And I'd go back to that other page and say, okay, at that stage of preparation, they're primarily focusing on, or we would focus on them making some kind of a commitment to themselves. I could see some self-reevaluation as well happening there that might be appropriate. And then, if that's the appropriate action, or that's the appropriate behavior process, what would be the appropriate activity that you would do with that person one-on-one that would support that process, that would be doing that particular process? And then why did you choose that one? Does that make sense? And then, so I'd like you to do that for each one. Just kind of go through and I would have the two other pages right by me so I can, this is just a process, this is just an exercise so that we get used to the feel of sensing where this person is and what might work, depending upon where that person is. Okay? So that's your homework. I'd like you to have that for Monday. Any questions on this? Okay. Have a terrific weekend, everyone. We will see you next time. You know how to push that so it stops playing? Stops recording.
No.
Did you,
This one?
actually, I think it's right.
The red one?
Yeah.